All right, we're going to do a relative compression test on an engine that we're pretty sure has no mechanical problems. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Pico Diagnostics software. Do the compression test. 4-cylinder. The only hookup we have to worry about this is a connection to the battery positive and negative terminals. That's all there is. Okay, pretty easy to set up. That's going to go into channel A, and we'll just tell it to start. So let's get this thing focused again. All right, I've got it set up for 4 cylinders. I'm going to tell it to start. It's going to tell me if it's happy or not, what to do. Once wide open throttle before we go. Tell it okay. All right, now it tells us to crank the engine. Spits out the lovely bar graph. We can see that, well, all of our cylinders are pretty good. 3 of them at 100%, 1 at 99%. So again, mechanically, we're not having any kind of issues with this, at least compression-wise. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and switch over. We're going to do the Pico software, Pico 6, and we'll set up relative compression that way. All right, so we'll bring Pico 6 up. All right, I'm going to go to the automotive library there, starting and charging. We're going to relative compression. This is diesel. All right, as far as the setup goes, it's telling us to use this big amp clamp. This one I think is calling out for 2000 amp clamp. I've got a 600 amp clamp, so I'm going to change the values when we get there. All right, here's an example of what you should see when you go through and do your test. Hopefully we're going to see something very similar to that. Now, at this point, I need to change. I'm going to get rid of this 2000 amp clamp here. And again, I'm going to set it up for my 600 amp clamp. So, go into A, change this. I've got a 600 amp clamp on it. Okay. And again, I'm going to be in the maximum scale that my amp clamp will support. And that's this right here. Now, one thing that this has set up, this is set up for a single trace trigger. Okay, so once it sees amperage climbing up through my trigger threshold there, it's going to start and give us a picture. Okay, so I think I'm going to raise this up just a little bit. All right, now, before I do that, let me show you the hookup because it is different from the diagnostic software. For this, I'm going to need to hook up the amp clamp. Now, amp clamp's going to go around. Battery can go battery positive, battery negative, doesn't matter. As long as I'm going to catch all that amperage that's leaving the battery going into that starter. Amp clamp needs to be on channel A. So get rid of voltage trace there. We're going into channel A. Okay, now amp clamp. It's a good thing to go ahead and zero that if necessary. So now we're going to go ahead and connect the amp clamp to the battery positive. I'm just using battery positive because it's real easy to get at here. All right, arrow should be pointing away from battery positive. There he is. Okay, one other thing I should mention, we do have fuel injection disabled. We're about ready to go, so go ahead and crank it and we'll see what happens. Okay. All right, now, just like any other starter, if you're taking a starter amp draw, you get this big, crazy high spike there. We're not going to worry about that. We're going to take a look at where this thing kind of stabilized. So I'm going to go up, I'm going to hit the zoom. Again, I'm going to hit this magnifying glass with the brackets in it. And we're fairly stable here. Again, if we look at this, the peaks all pretty close to one another. And ideally, that's what should happen. All right, nothing really stands out there as being bad. And, well, we wouldn't expect it to, because we know this engine is in good shape mechanically. It does crank well, it's got good compression. So here we go, crank it. Okay. Now you can see it pretty plainly from here, but I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on it. So I'm going to click on this little zoom up here. Again, it's got the magnifying glass with the two brackets. And I'll just go ahead and draw a little box around the part that I'm interested in. All right, so with this, we definitely have a problem. Ideally, if this is cranking, and again, we've got even compression cylinder to cylinder, this peak amperage should be the same all the way across the board. But this is not. Let me go ahead and drop this down. That's about our highest there. We'll take, there we go. We've got a low one right there. Now, this is not synchronized to any particular cylinder. We've got a 4-cylinder diesel here, so we got 4 bumps. So we know we got all 4 of them being displayed. And we take a look, we've got one that is low. It's consistently low, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It stays there. So we definitely have a problem with this. Now, you might ask, why in the world does this one have such a high value compared to at least the other 2 that we're going to say are normal? Well, this is one of the things that happens if you've got a very low compression cylinder. The engine's actually speeding up, so the starter's speeding up and the amperage required is greatly decreased. Now, the next compression stroke, it hits a good cylinder with a lot of compression. As a result, it slows down pretty rapidly, and the net result is higher amperage during that crank. So this is normal immediately after a cylinder with low compression. All right, so again, at a glance, we know we've got a problem. This then is going to justify me tearing into this and maybe actually doing some more engine tests, cylinder leakage, actual compression tests, what have you, okay? So this is going to hopefully isolate an engine mechanical issue from perhaps a fuel issue. All right, I'm going to change the scope around a little bit, and I'm going to show you then how to do the Pico Diagnostics software. So set this up, it's a 4-cylinder. That's pretty much all I'm going to worry about. I'm going to hit start on it, and it's going to take a look, and then it's going to tell me if it's happy with what it sees, and it'll tell me to crank it. All right, so please ensure the throttle is wide open, blah, blah, blah. Okay. All right, now it wants me to crank the engine. All right, so there it's looking at this, and it's telling us that we've got 2 cylinders that are equal to each other. We've got another one that's pretty close, 96%. And then we've got 1 cylinder that's way low. Okay, now the A, B, C, D, you have no idea what cylinder that is in because we don't have this, again, synchronized to one particular cylinder. If I had wanted to, I suppose I could have actually put a pressure transducer in where the glow plug is. But one of the problems with that is a lot of these engines, once you pull that glow plug out, they want you to put a brand new one back in. So this can be kind of expensive. However, this does show that there is a problem, there is engine mechanical, and again, it might lead to doing a regular compression test or cylinder leakage tests, something along those lines. So real quick and easy test to do, and again, it works best on the diesel. Have we done them all? Yeah, have we done too bad, too good? That's all there is to it. All right, well, hopefully you learned something. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you with the next one.